We now move to circle number 69. We shall concentrate on the knighthood of Apollo Kaggwa and the reasons why he's called Sir Apollo Kaggwa. The British honor system recognizes and rewards exceptional individuals on their achievement, bravery, or service to Great Britain and its empire. Therefore, I welcome you to this sequel, celebrating the Church of Uganda at 150 years. We celebrate the history of the church and the history of the state. The honors that the British gave were usually on recommendation of either the Defense Secretary or the Foreign and Colonial Secretary. The highest of them all was the knighthood honor, although it also had several types. Originally, a knight was a man of high social rank with a duty to fight for his king on horses when wearing a body armor. So the knights would be admitted into the Knights of the Garter from the medieval chivalry times to the present day. It then transformed into the British highest honor over time, awarded to those holding commands of high positions across the British Empire. The Grand Cross Knight was the highest, followed by the Knight Commander and the Knight Companion. The honor could be physically displayed and worn in a form of a ribbon bar, a star, a badge, collar, and gown. All knighted men were styled as Sir, except priests, and the first black man to be knighted was a gentleman called Samuel Lewis. The first black man was not an African. He was called Reeves, and he was a Barbados lawyer who had trained in England and was knighted in 1889 to become Sir Thomas Phillips Reeves. However, coming back here to the continent of Africa, it was an Arab, the ruler of Egypt, Khedive Ismail Pasha, who was the first to be knighted in 1866. However, in Western Africa is where we find the first black African to be knighted, and his name was Samuel Lewis of Sierra Leone, and that was in 1896. He was the mayor of Freetown at the time and a former chief justice and legislator in the country's legislation or legislative house, which was also called Legico, as in all the other British realms. He was recognized for his unceasing public service and unquestionable integrity. In East Africa, it was also an Arab, the Sultan of Zanzibar, Ali bin Said, who was the first to be knighted in 1890. He ruled Zanzibar from February 1890 to March 1893. And so he was honored by the British when he was still in power. The first black native African to be knighted in Eastern Africa was Apollo Kaggwa in 1905. And I will highlight a few others, not by name, but by simply mentioning that between when the first continent of Africa gentleman, who was an Egyptian ruler, received his knighthood, to the time Apollo Kaggwa died in 1927, there had been 28 knighthoods awarded and to the people on the continent of Africa, Arabs, Native Africans, blah, 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 blah. But when you go in a chronological order, who received what and when, then you realize that Sir Apollo Kaggwa was the 16th person on the continent of Africa to receive the knighthood. Why is this important? There are so many writers who keep saying that Apollo Kaggwa was the first Black African to receive a knighthood. We have proved them wrong tonight. He was not even in the sub-Saharan Africa. Again, he was not. He was the first in Eastern Africa. That is correct. So there should always be that qualification. The honor which Apollo Kaggwa received in 1905 was the Knight Commander of the most distinguished order of St. Michael and St. George, the KCMG, which was founded on the 28th of April, 1818, to honor two military Christian saints, Michael and George. It went with a blue gown, referred to as the mantle of the order, worn only by knights and made of Saxon blue satin linen with crimson silk. It had a ribbon bar worn on the riband or sash with the reverse of the attached insignia showing St. George on a horseback killing a dragon. Then there was a star insignia pinned to the left breast side with an 8-pointed silver figure, and in the middle was St. Michael trampling satin. Then there was a red cross of St. George and a neck collar of the Grand Cross made of gold, depicting two crowned winged lions, each holding a book and 7 arrows. Apollo Kaggwa was not sure when he was knighted. You see, when he wrote a book, remember, he wrote books, he assumed that his honor was in respect of his 1902 visit for the coronation. And so when he wrote in his diary and the books he wrote later, he said that he got this in 1902, which is wrong. Therefore, many writers have always quoted Apollo Kaggwa as saying that he was knighted during his visit in 1902. Others prefer to simply say that Apollo Kaggwa was knighted shortly after 1902, but avoided giving a date because that year's London Gazette, which published all the coronation honors, did not have Apollo Kaggwa's name among them. I therefore salute John Elifke, who on page 216 of his 2005 book, which he called Honor in Africa History, published by Cambridge University Press, recorded the correct date of Apollo Kaggwa's knighthood as being 1905. I salute you, sir. The British king in 1905 was Edward VII. And in his birthday honors announced on the 30th of June 1905 included that in respect of Apollo Kaggwa. The announcement came out of the Lord Chamberlain's office at the Central Chancery of the Orders of Knighthood when the Right Honourable Alfred Littleton, Queen's Counsel, was the Colonial Secretary. The legal notice of the knighthood was published in the Edinburgh Gazette, published by authority dated 4th July 1905, number 11739, on page 656. It stated that the king has been graciously pleased on the occasion of the celebration of His Majesty's birthday to give orders for the following appointments to and promotions in. And so on page 656 of the Edinburgh Gazette, In the second paragraph of the first column, he declared to be honorary member of the Knight Commander of the most distinguished order of St. Michael and St. George, Apollo Katikkiro, then in brackets, Prime Minister of Uganda. Of course, for them, Buganda was Uganda. As observed, the name missed Kaggwa. He simply said Apollo Katikkiro. And instead of Buganda, it was Uganda. So again, we know that it was supposed to be Buganda. So researchers have always looked for the full name Apollo Kaggwa, and in the London Gazette, it ended up a half name, a correct title, but a wrong national jurisdiction, and in the Edinburgh Gazette. On the same page, and the same column, the Uganda Protectorate Treasurer, George Douglas Smith, was also honored with the Knight Companion of the most distinguished order of St. Michael and St. George. Many years later, in celebration of his birthday, another British king, George V, gave honors to various people across the British Empire to appreciate them in their efforts during World War I, which was still ongoing. He created a new honor called the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire in 1917. He was rewarding World War most excellent performers, military servicemen, and its knighthoods were the GBE or the KBE. Now, the rest of the new honors were commanders or CBE. Remember me calling himself a CBE? Yeah, so there it is. So officers of the OBE and members of the MBE, the fifth supplement to the London Gazette on Tuesday, 12 March 1918, number 30576, on page 3289, announced the honorary MBE for several Ugandans in recognition of their service to the empire. And when I talk about the empire, I mean the British Empire. And these were the following: Sir Apollo Kaggwa, who was already a KMCG, Edward S. Kahaya of Ankole, Anderea Duhaga of Bunyoro, and Daudi Kasagama of Toro. They could add the initials MBE at the end of their names, while Apollo Kaggwa was to add it after his KMCG. Other MBE also gazetted, but on page 3287 of the same copy, included Catherine Cook, the matron of the Mengo Hospital, and Sister Teresa Mary Kane of the Mill Hill Missionaries at Nsambia. The Gazette stated that the king had honored all of them for services in or for overseas dominions, colonies, and protectorates in connection with the war from the 1st of January 1918. Brethren, that is the knighthood. Now we know why Apollo Kaggwa was referred to as Sir Apollo Kaggwa. That means that the young Kabaka Chwa, who is also, later we are going to see, was also referred to as Sir Daudi Chwa, was not yet knighted by this time. So by this time, it's only Sir Apollo Kaggwa. And all the others we've had, the title they got was MBE, or the honor they got was MBE. May the good Lord bless us all.